Hey, what's going on, everybody? So today I'm going to be looking at the Godox SL300 Mark III. So initially, when I looked at this light, I didn't realize that it's not sold in the Godox store. I found this on the Godox store on Amazon, which made me a little bit concerned. I thought maybe I might have gotten some kind of knockoff version. After looking around at B&H, Adorama, those kind of things, it looks like they all sell it. And from everything I can tell, it seems like a totally legit light. So if you know something about Godox lighting and their company and the way that they sell things, throw it in the comments below. I'd love to know why it's in everywhere else listed under Godox, but it's not on their actual website. So feel free to throw that there and educate the rest of us. All right, so let's talk about this light. It's a super bright 300 watt light. We'll talk about the construction first, then I'm gonna get it up on a stand so you can kind of see what it looks like. I'm gonna try and balance out this bright window behind me with this light. So as far as the construction goes, the body, solid metal, seems great so far as I can tell, as far as the actual build quality of that goes. The yoke, again, metal, all the important parts that are going to be wearable definitely seem like they're good, solid materials. The back portion with the little handle and the knobs, plastic of course, but overall the rest of it seems like a pretty solid build quality. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing up on a stand. We'll see what the light looks like, and then we'll talk about some of the comparisons between maybe this and buying an aperture light, and maybe what some of the pros and cons are, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get this thing on a stand, and we'll go from there. All right, that's better. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the features that this has. So this does come with dual fans on it. They're really quiet. Having the fans running, I haven't even noticed them on. I have to actually hold my ear up next to it to even hear the fans running. So that's an awesome feature. It does also have the ability to press the little fan button on the back of the light to turn the fans completely off. So if you are in a really silent room and you're really concerned about the sound that might come off of the fan, you can turn that off and it'll automatically dim the light to an acceptable level that's not going to overheat the bulb or anything like that. All right, let's talk about one of the other features it has. So it comes with a remote. This runs a bunch of the different kind of Godox brands lights. So it's the RC-A6. Pretty convenient, especially if you're in a situation where you're kind of shoot by yourself. You can adjust the lighting without having to go up and touch the back of the light where all the rest of the controls are. So I do like that feature. I was playing around. I'm going to show you the app here in just a little bit. And one of the things that is kind of interesting about it is the remote, the light, and the app don't seem to all communicate together. So it'd be nice to see that get fixed in the future. If I adjust the light with the remote, it doesn't affect the app the same way. So then the lighting gets a little bit messed up as far as which one's the accurate reading. Right now I show this at 60% on this, but if I change it on the phone, it could be different and it'll still show 60% on this. So something they might want to look at in the future as far as correcting that between the app and the devices themselves. All right, so let's talk about some of the other things. It does have different effects built into it. I'm not really interested in those, but maybe that's something you're into. If you like that, they have lightning, all these different ones. This is the daylight only version, so super bright compared to the bicolor. But if you wanted to hit other effects, you could always get the bicolor, which I think adds some of the things like doing like a fire kind of setting and effect like that. So one of the big reasons I did get this light is because it is the all daylight version. So it's gonna be significantly brighter than if you get the bicolor. I think it's almost double the amount of lumens coming out of it. So it's significantly better. So right now I have this running at 60%, and I can turn this all the way up to 100, and it almost becomes overwhelming to shoot a video with. It gets significantly brighter. So turn this back down to 60 so I can actually see. With the daylight, I wanted something that was going to be really bright and be able to work in kind of anything. If I needed to illuminate an entire room, I could do that. If I just want to be able to shoot a YouTube video, I can dial it down also as well. So I didn't want to have a light that I'd have to push the limits all the time just to film basic videos with. So speaking of brightness levels and kind of comparing this one to some of the other brands that maybe are out there, this brand with Godox, we're looking at $500 for a 300 watt light. So that same comparative light, you're looking at almost $1,000 if you go with aperture, and then depending on which model of that you go with, it's gonna be significantly more. They do make a VL version of this that is gonna be a little bit more for Godox. It's gonna be like 700, and it comes with a couple different things. We'll kind of talk about that in a little bit here on some of the pros and cons of buying this light versus some of the other lights that are out there. All right, so talking about accessories that come along with this, obviously we already talked about the remote. This also comes with in the box a reflector. It's a Bowens mount on the light, so you can really add just about anything you want, and it's not necessarily going to be Godox specific. It's pretty universal. You can buy aperture light domes, you could buy Godox products, whatever you want, and you can add that onto the light with the universal Bowens mount. So that's pretty sweet, pretty good accessory to that. So one of the other things with this is it looks like there's a couple different ways that you can adjust the tilt on it. So right now I have it set up where there's little plates in between, so it acts as a friction mount. There's also, you can take those plates out and then it'll be almost more like a geared or a tooth style lock, so it's gonna be a little bit more sturdy. This is a really heavy light, and then when you add a big softbox onto it, like the one I'm shooting with right now, that big 40-inch, it's gonna make it's pretty heavy. So I actually had to buy another light stand for that. That's gonna be all aluminum instead of the kind of the cheap metal ones that I have right now. So consider that when you buy the product. Think about what kind of accessories you need to get with it, because it is gonna be a big light. If you need something, you don't need something that bright, you can definitely go with one of the 200s or 160s, a little bit smaller, and you could probably stick with cheaper light stands. So just something to think about when you're looking into it. All right, so now let's jump into the app and we'll take a look at that. I'm gonna throw that up on the screen right here. So if you jump in here, you can see, again, you got all sorts of different things. So you have the different effects. So like this one's a flashlight. We have a lightning effect that you can throw on a video if you wanted to. Broken bulb. There's all sorts of different features with that. If you go back to just the regular settings here, you can look at dialing in via your phone, the brightness of it. So I can dial it all the way down, dial it all the way back up to max, bring it back down to where I was. And yeah, you have a little bit of adjustment from your phone to work with, which is pretty sweet. So overall, pretty simple app, but you can control multiple fixtures and yeah, be able to adjust things from there. All right, so let's look at some of the pros and cons of this light versus some of the other ones that are out there. So unlike the Aperture and the VL series version of this light, this one has everything all built into one. So it's really heavy on top of the light stand. If you were gonna try to boom this, it's gonna be really heavy. You're gonna need a pretty heavy duty boom arm, and you're gonna have to sandbag the other end pretty well to get this to be able to go out over the top of something. If you're not concerned about that, then it's not a big deal. But the other ones, like the Aperture and the VL, have the control box separate, and that hangs off of the light stand itself. So it's not putting all that weight on the top of it. But again, it's kind of whatever you're looking for. There's a little bit of cost savings that comes along with this, and probably a little bit of setup time, because now you don't have all those cables and other things you need to connect to be able to get that control box to speak to the light itself. So one of the downsides though is because it doesn't have a separate control box, there is no option to do any kind of V-mount battery with this. So the Aperture 300, it's awesome. You can take that out and you don't have to necessarily plug in. You can throw a couple V-mounts on it and it'll last a few hours with those. So perks, kind of depends on what you're looking for. Again, for the price of this, I think it's pretty worth it in the sense that it's about half the price of the Aperture. So if you want a good quality light that's gonna get the job done and doesn't necessarily have all the excessive features that might come along with some of the more pro models, then I think it's a good option. But it would be kind of cool to see some of that maybe in the future, or maybe they have an accessory that maybe you can plug in V-mount batteries and then plug it directly into the back of this light. One of the other things I would have liked to have seen, but again, because of the price, I can understand why they didn't throw it in, is this didn't come with any kind of bag. You know, I could buy my own case for the amount of money that I saved versus one of the VLs or one of the Aperture series lights. So, you know, again, I would have liked to have seen that, but not the end of the world. I can buy a case for it. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and throw a link to this below. If you wanna go check this light out over on Amazon, you can take a look there. I appreciate you using the link. And yeah, if you like more content like this and you want to see other things, if you want to see what I was using previously for my videos, you know, throw a comment below and I'll show you a video between my previous light setup and what I'm going to be using now. And yeah, we'll go from there. So again, subscribe, like the content if you liked it, and we'll see you on the next one.